Good morning, everyone. This is the Planning and Economic Development Committee and for June 14th. And we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Councilmember Lawson, did you have a chance to look at those?
I did. I don't have any changes.
Okay, I don't either. So we'll go ahead and approve those. And just for the record, Councilmember Sundberg is not able to be with us today. So our one and only item on the agenda is the UDO amendments. So who's going to present that? Is it Kelly?
I will, Councilmember Bergan. I will share my screen.
And I'll just say I'm actually sponsoring this, but as you all know, and I'm sure Kelly will go into this, but when we passed the turf ordinance last year, we needed to align our UDO to it. So anyway, so take it away, Kelly.
Sure. First of all, I want to make sure everyone can see my screen. Can you see my PowerPoint presentation or not yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Not well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's a little, what do you call it? Format.
Yeah. So on your display settings up at the top, upper, yep. Swap.
Thank you. So by way of introduction, some of you know me, some of you don't. My name is Kelly Bish. I'm a senior planner and landscape architect in the planning department, and I administer the landscape section of the UDO on behalf of the planning department. And today I want to talk with all of you about the proposed UDO amendment to address the waterwise provisions. So why I'm in the UDO? As you all may already know, City Council passed the non-functional turf and ornamental water features ordinance in September last year on 2022, and it became effective as of October 15th. And the amendment that's being proposed is to address the inconsistencies that exist between the UDO and the non-functional turf ordinance. So section 146-4.7 is the landscape water conservation and stormwater management section that I administer. And the amendment would address the bullet points that are listed below. Basically, we would be limiting the use of turf to the rear lots of residential homes. We would be removing the use of turf in curbside landscape areas within medians and within the buffer areas that surround the perimeter of developments. We're refining terminology used in referencing specific plant species. And we'd also be clarifying the front yard landscape requirements as specified in Table 4.7-3, the residential yard landscape requirements. So one thing I wanted to point out to the committee is that prior to the adoption of that non-functional turf ordinance last year, any projects that are submitted prior to October 1st or were submitted, I should say, prior to October 1st are grandfathered in, meaning they really have to comply with the UDO provisions and any master plans that were applicable or are applicable. And so when the UDO was being written back in 2017, 2018, before it was adopted, there were many meetings between myself and Aurora Water at the time to try and incorporate some water-wise requirements within the UDO. And so some of those standards that are in the UDO that are being amended, but apply to those projects that were submitted prior to October 1st, is that front yards can have sod in them as long as they have 400 contiguous square feet. And that they have a maximum only of 40% or 1,000 square feet, but the minimum is 400. Anything less than that, they weren't permitted to have sod. And we allowed sod at the time in curbside landscapes when they were 10 foot or wider in width, which really encompasses your arterial and collector streets. And the purpose for that was, at the time, again, we were trying to incorporate some water-wise requirements, not allowing sod in any of the areas that were less than that, but with 10 foot in width or wider, the thought was they could be irrigated more efficiently and it would have less of the runoff issues. So with the adoption of that non-functional turf ordinance, again, sod will not be permitted in front yards anymore. There won't be sod in curbside landscape areas, but I just wanted to point out that there are plans that are in the works that are still being reviewed, that may be coming online for development a year from now, that you may still see sod in front yards or curbside areas or buffers. But again, they were adopted or approved prior to that non-functional turf ordinance. So the question, before the committee today is, does the committee support moving this forward through the planning process, which requires the Planning Commission recommendation prior to final consideration before City Council? Today also on the call is Tim York with our Water Conservation Division 2, in case any of the council members or staff has questions regarding the non-functional turf ordinance that I'm not able to answer. And that's it. Can I answer any questions for anyone?
Councilmember Bergan,
Sorry,
you're
I was muted. Councilmember Lawson, any questions?
No, I'm fine with approving this. We do need to make sure that we're aligned with the UDO. I just have a general question, Councilmember Bergan. So I know that we've passed, I don't know, I know this one was a significant one. Are there any other, are we going to be taking a deeper dive to make sure that anything else that we've passed is aligned with our UDO? Or,
So this is Jason. We are
sorry,
actually,
Jason.
no, it's fine. No. So one of the things we're actually doing is going through the entire UDO. The planning department is working with other departments to try and take our UDO, kind of do an overall assessment. You're going to see it come through kind of in phases. So we're going to break it into, I think what we've talked about most recently is sort of 3 chunks. And we're going to sort of through each of those major areas and really go through and just things that either we've noticed as staff that are sort of needs tune up, or we've heard from the development community, maybe we just look at the phases to try and
Can't
go
hear
through
you.
it. And
You were kind of breaking up, but I'm the logist is that the city is going to take on that, and we are kind of looking at that, and it's going to be in 3 different parts, or I guess segments of how we're going to divide it up, right? Okay. Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Bergan, I do approve this moving forward.
Okay, thank you. And then I just have a couple questions. And I'm trying to get this through a little bit faster. So I had asked if it has to go to planning because it's a UDO change, or to the Planning Commission. But I did ask if it could just go straight to the floor afterwards, just because the timing of our meetings are kind of a little bit wonky in the summer. And so I'm trying to bypass study session and just put it on the July, forget what date it is, 17th council meeting. Because I don't think I think it's pretty straightforward, but I do have a question because I had some constituents reach out to me that had bought their homes last year, but yet didn't want turf in their yards. They wanted to do the water wise landscaping, but the developer that I spoke to from that area told me that no, I can't get my my CO unless I abide by your code, which was the old code, not this new one that we're adopting today. So anyway, there was really that kind of conflict of the resident not wanting turf and the developer saying I have to put turf, and we could not come to an agreement. We were trying to work it out so that there would be maybe a credit or so forth. It just got too complicated. So I believe that in that situation, that resident is having turf put in, and then they'll probably rip it out later, which is not the most effective way. So it is a little confusing because, as Kelly said, the plans that were submitted prior to October 1st, even though the plan was submitted, they don't have to abide by the new ordinance, but they may not build that home until a year from now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll take this one. I'm still dealing with that resident and the builder.
Are you? Okay.
I am, yeah. I'm trying to help Krista we're trying to help her work with the builder to come to a resolution that works for all parties, right? And you're correct. The builder, for one, does not have to put in turf. Now, at least from a city standpoint, they may
Right.
have an agreement with the future HOA or a metro district that when they build a neighborhood, this is what they were going to do. I haven't got the builder to respond to my inquiry, so I don't have an answer for that. But the city's not making them put in turf to get a CO. But you are correct that we don't have the ability to tell the builder that they have to do what their customer wants because they are grandfathered in and they can put in turf if they want. Unfortunately, as you alluded to, I'd rather them not put it in just to give them a rebate to take it out later. We can work through them, and I have offered solutions to the builder should they respond, where we can either compensate them in the same way we would have if they were to put in water-wise, if they would volunteer to meet the new ordinance. There's a difference in tap fees. And there's another solution we can kind of do case by case as well, but not something I want to put out there in a large scale because it would be really challenging. But
Right.
you're right. Yeah, we can't make the builder do it, unfortunately, even though the customer wants it. But I am personally still working with that resident and trying to work with the builder if they'll get back to me to come to a resolution before they get that sod put down.
Yeah, thank you. And it's even more complicated because the Metro District has reached out to me as well because it just was so confusing that they thought it was effective immediately, January 1. And it's hard to explain. Yes, plans submitted prior to October 1 are grandfathered in, but that the confusion comes in where they're not building for another year or whatever, 6 months, 9 months, a year, and trying to get that communicated to our metro districts and new residents that come in. So I don't know, on the education front, how we're going to tackle that, but
Yeah, it's difficult every time you have a new code ordinance comes in, or even when the UDO, was created, you can't go back and say, well, you're already approved and you've already submitted all these things and we're going to make you change. So it can be a communication challenge, for sure.
yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much. I also approve it, moving it forward. Any other further comments or questions, Councilmember Lawson?
There's none for me.
Okay, and I don't know if we have any developers on the call that have any concerns. Doesn't sound like it. Okay, very good. We'll go ahead and move forward with that one. And then there are mostly no reports that I'm seeing except for retail. Bob, did you want to go ahead and give a report?
Sure. We just came back from ICSC, and Councilwoman Bergan and Jason were there. And if they'd like to say a few things at the end of this, that'd be great. We did have something like 35 meetings, and we've got at least 3 new major projects to work on. Of course, we can't really talk about them until they start to become real, but those were 3 projects that basically happened at ICSC. At least that's the first time we heard about them. So it was a great show, and we'll be giving a review on that or an overview on that in another future PED. We also wanted to give an update on the amount of businesses that opened. Small businesses at this point, from the last time we spoke, which was in February, we opened another 1,274 new businesses with about 1,300 employees. You have to remember about a third of new businesses that open are sole proprietors, like one person opening a business like in their home, but they still get a business license. And if they're selling retail, they still pay sales tax. Overall, since September, we have opened 3,600 new businesses with 4,417 estimated employees. So that's the update from retail, and we'll be back to talk about ICSC in a future PED.
Wow.
If you guys would want to talk a little bit about your experience at ICSC, that'd be great.
Okay, but real quick first, when you say, because that's a lot of new businesses, what businesses closed? Like, what's that ratio?
Yeah, we haven't been able to figure out how to get the closed businesses number because people don't cancel their licenses when they close, and a lot of people don't renew their licenses on time. They sort of forget about it, and then 3 months later, they renew it. So we haven't figured out whether or not to call a person that, like, how long are they before they renew their license? Do we call them closed? And if they renew their license, do we come back and change that number? It's a lot of tracking, and there's no one place to get that information. It's an aggregation and it's a lot of guessing. And I'm not sure the number would be really that accurate. So we haven't really figured that one out yet, how to get closed business numbers.
Councilmember
Okay, well,
Bergan?
yeah, go ahead, Councilmember.
Oh,
Lawson.
no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This is a good number. Do you have where these businesses are in the different wards or the different areas? Do you have that broken down in a data chart? Of where the businesses are open kind of in the different wards in the city?
We don't have it laid out that way. We can pull their addresses, and I guess we could come up with a macro that would pull their addresses and then figure out what ward they'd be in. So we
Okay.
probably could put that together. I'd have to go work on Excel and kind of figure out how to do that, but we do have addresses there, and so we could eventually do that. And Tom actually does the work on this. Tom, if you want to jump in and
Yeah,
talk about how.
okay.
how-
Tom Oldenburg. It would be easy to just sort them by zip code,
Mm-hmm.
and that would give you a close estimate, like 80015, right?
Right.
And
Well, I'm just
and
interested
start
in
to narrow
general.
it in.
Yeah, like where, because I think, it would be interesting, like if 40% are in Ward 1 or Ward 6, and there's only 20% in Ward 4 or Ward 5, maybe kind of see you can kind of maybe see what the landscape is, and maybe there's a gap or something. So I was just curious about
Yeah.
that. I think that would be interesting to
We
see.
can break it out by zip code pretty easy, and then a lot of the new businesses are people changing the name of the business. So there's a existing business that has a new name, or it's sold, and then there's a new business license. So it's not all new store openings,
Right.
right?
And I know that example because up here at my coffee shop, it used to be Sorrentino's. Now it's going to be called Forest Coffee. So that's just one example.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, and that's a new business license. And then if they lose their own employees, and then these guys pick up employees, we only pick up the new employees. We don't know how many they lost, and so that's but that's statistics, depending on how you try to dice it. And so we're trying to be as accurate as possible, and we're trying to estimate things that we know are close to this. We know about how many people are employed in a restaurant. We know about how many people employed in a sole proprietor, obviously one. And so a lot of this is estimating, but we need to be tracking how many businesses we're opening, how many employees we're getting to be employed in the city.
What about the Chamber of Commerce? Because I'm sure they try to get new, memberships.
Oh yeah, and they do probably a more detailed job than we do about tracking this stuff. If they want to jump in here, I don't know if they're on the line, but they track them at a much more detailed level because they're looking for members.
Right.
And so I don't know if they want to jump in, but we work closely with the other, with Bruce and Kevin and the new Kevin. And so we can get with them and help them out if they.
Who is the new CEO or executive director of Chamber of Commerce, by the way? Anybody know?
I don't know, but
I don't
someone
believe they've,
come in.
council member, this is Andrea, Amanick Development Services. I don't believe they've selected the new, Kevin is staying on through the selection process.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll go ahead and just give my perspective of ICSC. It was, I thought it was very productive and it was very busy. As you know, it was like every 30 minutes was a meeting. So sometimes there were simultaneous meetings where one group would go to someone's booth, and other times, and the majority of the meetings were at our booth. Yeah, I thought, it's interesting what people say when you meet with the different brokers and so forth, just information and their opinion of Aurora, and it's very positive. Our booth was really in a good place, placement wise. And I thought we got a lot of just even beyond the meetings that were already scheduled, we got some walk-in traffic as well. So, yeah, you know, there were networking events in the evening following the conference, and I think those were good too, because we ran into actually quite a few people that we, you know, knew, or maybe had not had talking or spoken to in recent times. So, very, very effective.
All right, thanks. Jason, did you want to say anything or?
I don't know if we still have
Okay.
Jason.
All right, well, I appreciate the overview, and it is an interesting show. So many people show up, but the industry is such a small industry, even though there's like 50,000 people there, and everyone kind of knows everyone, and you constantly run across people that you've seen in the past, and so it is overwhelming. But if you've been going there a number of years, you kind of run into the same people over and over again, and so it feels like a small crew of people, but it's very overwhelming when you first get there.
And I will put a plug in for Chesarina, because was this the first year that a planner went?
No, second year. Well, but she did exactly what she did this year, last year. So it's been amazing.
And it was wonderful to have her there, because a lot of times they get the meetings, they start to get into details about, about planning. And so she was able to answer some very specifically questions, especially if they did have a project in that was going on already with the city. She could look it up and just, answer questions. Somebody has their hand up. Who's that? Who is that?
Andrea.
Andrea. Yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add, the Office of Development Assistance is a critical part of the team, and they have been involved for many years. They are always a part of the team, just for the reasons that you state. We have a lot of people who come in with ongoing problems, and they are, if I may compliment all of them and their whole team, they are Johnny on the spot when it comes to being aware of current applications and so forth. And so we have in the past brought a planner and would continue to add a planner to the team if we expect that we have meetings with large developers, or somewhere where a planner would have more information on an ongoing project and could assist the developer at ICSC. We're mostly there to tell developers, because we can always meet with them when we come back. We're mostly there to allow them time with us, to show them we care, and to make sure we're making those we're touching them appropriately to make sure they feel like they're getting the attention they need to feel secure with the city of Aurora.
Yeah. And, just having the iPads and the TVs there to be able to show them, they might be interested in one area, and then they, we can let them know, look, we've got all these various locations and developments happening. And then they sometimes will be like, oh, I didn't realize that you were, had a development going in that particular area. So sometimes it presents new opportunities that they had not thought of. So, yeah. Okay.
And I would like to add, I haven't had a chance to say this in this meeting. I've said this a few other meetings. The job that ODA does, and Chesarina specifically does at ICSC, is invaluable. But when we have meetings, when they're not in the room, someone will come in and start complaining about the process. And whatever their complaint is, we're not really that involved in the process, so we can't really answer it, and it changes the meeting. We're sort of back on our heels in the meeting, and it's not a good posture to be in. When Chesarina's in the room, she can look up what they're saying in a matter of seconds and spin the computer around and show them what actually is going on, and that just shuts it down. It changes the meeting completely, and it puts us in the posture we need to be in, because they're not being delayed by whatever their complaint is. They're not being delayed by planning. They're not being delayed by.
But I think sometimes they're not aware, because they're, they might be the developer or whatnot, and it's somebody within their staff,
Right.
within their company that they weren't aware that was resolved or whatever.
And it was fascinating to see their face when they actually saw the document going back to their consultant 2 months ago, and they claimed their consultant hadn't gotten it.
Yeah.
And so it changes the meeting, and they are invaluable. Really happy with adding them to the group. I mean, they've been part of the group, but I've been in meetings where they weren't able to be in that meeting, and it just doesn't go as well if they can't.
Do
Call
we
them out
know
as
if
well.
we were able to help the gentleman that came in on day 2 that has a business with us? I think it's probably in Ward 4 or
Is
5.
that the gentleman owns the Target Center?
No, he had, remember he had the homeless people that were
Oh,
hanging
yes.
around.
Yes. We were able to put him in contact with his PAR officer in the area, and we're sort of monitoring that. But yeah, we had a few folks that were in that situation where they needed to contact their PAR officer, and
I think he
did
felt
not.
good. I think he felt good about the meeting as well, because we were able to, say we're going to do A, B, C and get you some resources. So,
Yeah, we did have 3 or 4 of those meetings where they came in to talk about something specific. And the gentleman that owns the Target Center was in the same boat. He had invested in the Target Center. He wanted to invest in another project. He had some questions about how do I work through the issues in my Target Center. And we walked him through it. And he said, okay, great. Now I can go look at a second project. So he just needed to hear that we were listening and that we could help him. And then he was ready to do more investment in Aurora. So a lot of great meetings there across the spectrum.
kudos to you guys, to the team, for putting on another great ICSC meeting.
Okay, and we'll give you the detailed update in a future PED. Thanks for letting us talk.
Thank you. I don't see any other reports, but that does bring me to what would be next on the agenda. I know that Andrea, the AEDC, we were going to postpone from today. Is that set for July? Do we know?
I do not know. I think that AEDC had some concerns about workload. And so I can check back. How about I do this? I check back with them and check back with you.
Sounds good.
To
So
let you know, I think Marcia, if I'm not, shake your head if I'm not mistaken, you'd like to actually do a report today?
she was not available.
Well, I'm
she's
here.
here.
I'm
She's
here.
online.
I've got 3 more minutes. I just wanted to do a teaser. I'm going to be on the agenda next month with the 16th Annual Small Business Veterans Conference, which we will be holding in the City of Aurora. And the City of Aurora AURA is the premier sponsor of the conference at the Hyatt in Aurora. We'll get that on the council calendar. It is September 18th, 9 to 5. There is an opening reception the night before for VIPs. And I'm going to do a longer presentation next month for you informationally.
Great. Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll have that next month. We're going to check on AEDC, and then ICSC. When do you guys want to do your follow-up presentation?
We're currently targeting August.
Okay.
We've had our debrief meeting just yesterday, actually. We had a very thorough debrief, and if you have a few moments after this, I need to talk to you about a couple of issues. And then we'll be prepared for the August meeting.
Okay. And is Janine on this call?
Janine is on vacation and I am acting. So is there something I can take back and help you with?
Have a vacation but me. Okay. So my other question I was going to ask Janine is I would love to have an update from Denver Airport.
Okay.
So I know Rachel Gruber did a presentation to the Denver City Council recently, and so maybe we could reach out to her.
Councilmember, she did one at TAPS, and so I think we're trying to schedule a briefing for all of council at a study session.
Oh, okay. So but I guess mine was not necessarily strictly transportation. So I don't know if it makes sense to come to PED, but I wanted an update on the Plan 100, where, you know, they're going to support 100,000 people traveling through the airport. But I want really more the impact to Aurora from a sales tax dollar perspective, in terms of, you know, how does the growing airport affect us more from a economic development perspective versus transportation? So does that change the presentation in terms of what she's presenting at study session?
I certainly relay that to her. Right. The information was pretty all encompassing. I think it included current travel to and through the airport. It also included, I think a highlight of some of their, ongoing capital improvements and other things out there. And I also think it included their expansion plans on the airport. I don't know if they're doing any studies about the impacts in Aurora. So
Okay.
let us look at that.
Yeah.
And,
So if,
not sure that they're best suited to really look at our stuff.
okay, you're breaking up. If what I maybe it's a staff, maybe it's not having them present to us, but I would like to know how we're planning for the Denver airport expansion, even though that's Denver, in terms of the impact with Jackson Gap Road but really more from the perspective of economic development, hotels. What else do we need to do to capitalize on that expansion? Do we foresee any challenges? How do we take advantage of that growth for us from a sales tax revenue perspective? So,
Okay, we'll take a look at that and try to prepare something.
okay. And then for future meetings also, can we get, I know we did the Northeast improvement last month, but can we get any, like an update on any new development throughout the whole entire city? Just so that we get questions from constituents all the time, what's happening in, whatever ward and throughout the city. And it's really important that through this committee that we're briefed on any new, development, whether it be retail or whether it be commercial or housing.
Okay, understood. Well,
Okay.
we'll work on that as well.
Okay, very good. Anything else, Councilmember Lawson?
No, I think that's good for me.
Okay, so our next meeting is scheduled for July 12th. And it's still the virtual one, correct?
Correct, I believe.
Okay,
That is correct.
So correct me if I'm wrong.
We have the August meeting set up for the hybrid meeting.
okay, August. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that I put that on my calendar. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I wish you all a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.